about that. You know, Goku will beat somebody and go, hey, maybe I can teach you some stuff and we can spar later. He's a good sport when it comes to that. And he's, what I believe is the embodiment of the beginner's mind, and he's pure of heart. So he's not going to be a proud Saiyan warrior. You know, he doesn't, and sometimes they'll write him that way, and I'm like, not in Japan. And when I say write him that way, I mean in America. And I'm like, wait, that's Vegeta's space. So if Goku starts doing that, and Vegeta, we're ruining, Goku's a special thing that when he shows up, it's this Goku-ness that has to be preserved. So I feel very strongly about that. And I'm not directly answering your question, I'm kind of going on a diatribe about Goku's personality. And remember, these are just my opinions from playing the character and trying to get the information I can. I mean, if Akira Toriyama gets online and says, Sean Schemmel's wrong, I'm wrong. You know, all I care about, ultimately, as much as I love pleasing all the fans who watch Dragon Ball, as an artist, all I care about is pleasing Akira Toriyama. I'm not even worried about what Masako Nozawa's doing or any other Goku, because she's doing it her way for the Japanese audience. I'm doing it the way I can, channeling the spirit for an English-speaking audience. So I'm trying to make it, you know, and I would love it if I could have talked to him, or I would love it if I could hear some feedback, like, you know, I'd be devastated. He's like, you got it wrong. I'm like, oh, shit. But if I got, you know, you're doing a good job, that would, you know, make me happy. I did feel vindicated when Masako was on stage at New York Comic Con and they asked her a question about the character. And I was answering in my mind the question, and she said basically the same thing. And I'm like, okay, good, we're on the same page. Because as an actor, when I do an American cartoon, I usually have direct access to the creator. And so I can ask all the questions I need to build the character and do it right? But with dubbing, a lot of times, you know, you do not get to talk to the Japanese creator at all. You know, you're trying to divine this through a translator in an adapted script. So it can be very challenging when you just want to honor the original meaning of that. So that's a really, I didn't know a big diatribe, but I figure all that information would be useful to you in your question. Did I get your question right, or did you want me to clarify more?
You did.
Is that cool? All right, where's the guy? Yes, you. Let's.
All right, Pete. I think you're going to the other side.
Come on, come up to come up here, and then we'll get the guy over there next. Not you, and then we'll get you next. So then, boom, boom. Okay, so overalls guy, quasi-fro guy with a beard, and Spider-Man guy next. Quasi-fro. Well, I can't tell if it's fro, totally. You're almost there. Yeah, you're getting there.
Fro-ish.
Fro-ish. Yeah, I'm loving it. All right.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up?
My question is, how do you keep your voice so healthy and stuff, like after all the screaming?
There's a couple of things. I feel like I had an advantage being a former choir director and singer, and I was a professional French horn player for 20 or 30 years. I actually have my horns in my hotel room right now because I took it to the Super Saiyan Showdown when I came directly here. So I should have brought it solo. I should have played a concerto for you, which I might start playing concertos at cons if people are interested in Mozart or whatever. So the main thing I can say about any aspiring voice actor is you want to make sure two things. Your monitoring is good in the booth, because if you can't hear yourself well enough, you're going to blow your voice out. And then more importantly, breath support, like copious amounts of breath support. Using proper technique in the booth to me is more important than magical Chinese herbs and teas, which I will use if I'm seriously damaged only after a session. And the reason I don't use them, and I learned this from being in classical music, if you have a device or a crutch or something that you're using, I gotta get my special Chinese tea before I do voice acting. What if they don't have it that day? Or what if you're out and your voice is fine, but because you have a psychological attachment to it, you get nervous because you don't have your magic teeth and you're not relying on your technique. So I rely on paying attention to the pain in my voice, the kind of pain in my voice, copious amounts of air and breath support. I'm throwing air in my vocal cords like crazy, not strain on the voice. And then if you feel certain pains in your voice that are very, very sharp and very painful, stop immediately, call the session. Don't let a director or like I will tell a production team, I don't care if it's not going to air on Cartoon Network, I'm not blowing out my voice. I don't give a shit. You're not going to destroy my voice. There'll be Christmas next year. So there have been a couple of times when they pressured me to finish something, and I'm like, I've called the session, because I'm like, you're not going to ruin, are you going to pay for my life, the rest of my life, if I get a no because you asked me to scream too long? So part of it's putting your foot down and being able to say no. The main thing is proper technique in the booth, which, you know, singing and playing a brass instrument or using, and if you play a brass instrument or a wind instrument or you sing, it's very, very helpful to that. Getting good, you know, good monitoring. Make sure you can, and if you don't have monitors doing this, you can really hear yourself. That prevents you from overstraining and you can really get good feedback. And then post sessions, if you're really dying, I just drink a lot of, if it's really hurting, I'll use this Chinese herb, this goopy Chinese herb that I can't pronounce, or I'll use a lozenge, and I just don't talk. I drink a lot of water and I don't talk. Do you have room temperature?
Room temperature
water, yeah.
Not cold water, room temperature water. And I've been using this thing called Throat Calm. It's a homeopathic.
I don't know that one. I know Pro Coach.
I'll show you later.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
It's basically 2 tablets, put them under your tongue, it melts, and it really removes hoarseness fairly well. Now,
I'd be interested in that.
yeah.
Of course, you know, in Dragon Ball, I don't have to worry about well, hoarseness is one thing, but I got gunk in your throat. The second you scream, it just all comes out. You're like, rah. I'll do a couple of screams and go, okay, I think I'm warmed up. Like, you know, but
That's damaging to the microphones, but it should be okay for you.
yeah, so you get the pop screen, little particles in your throat on the pop screen. But yeah, that's proper technique is the key. I get nervous when I see kids like, I'm gonna scream like Goku, and I see kids destroying their voices, and I'm like, don't do it. You know, it makes me. And I've been fortunate. I heal really well, and I've been very fortunate genetically, I guess, in that way. I find that after I have to really destroy my voice, like I was recording 5 days week before last. I was working on the video game and Ultra Instinct all week the previous weekend. Yeah, I was okay by Monday, but as I get older, it gets a little bit of a difficulty too.
For the work, it's okay, you can bounce back really quickly.
Yeah.
But, you know, a virus or something like that.
That could be a problem.
Yeah. And if any of you have something, just stay away from the voiceover booths this weekend, or come wearing a full body condom. We'd really appreciate it.
That would be wise. I don't mind shaking hands. I'm happy to shake hands. I don't use Purell except at cons because I used to get sick all the time, and I don't believe in antibacterial things because I read it can absorb into your bloodstream and mess with your immune system. So at home I don't use it, but here about once or twice a day I'll Purell myself, and I'm getting sick less because of it. So we're all here. Everybody's bringing the germs in. People bring kids. We're just part of being a human. But it's something you want to protect yourself against. Also.
That's why I've stopped tongue kissing.
I'm by myself, so. So thank you so much. Let me get Quasi Throw Guy and Almost There, and then Spider Guy. I just don't remember his names yet.
Okay, so there are obviously a lot of iconic moments in the Dragon Ball saga. My personal favorite is the very first time Goku goes Super Saiyan.
Me too.
And so, I was actually just going to say, what was your greatest or most satisfying experience?
Well, the most satisfying experiences for me, it depends. I've been doing this so long. They're satisfying at the moment, but then as you voice Dragon Ball more, you just like the show goes up and up and up. So it's so I'm particularly proud and happy with Battle of Gods Resurrection after the Broly movie. That's the best work. I'm very hard on myself. That's the best work I've ever done, and I'm very, very proud of it. And the whole cast was amazing. As far as I'm concerned, as far as the Broly, just my personal opinion, it's funny, I'm not the biggest Frieza fan, and Chris Ayres I wasn't the biggest Gogeta fan, and I wasn't the big Frieza fan. And Chris Ayres brought it with oxygen tanks. He's very sick. He went through 5, 6, 7 oxygen tanks because he has a COPD. And we're worried about it, very worried about it. But he did the movie and it sounded better than before. And to me, he's the MVP of that movie. Just amazing. And then Gogeta, I never got into the whole fusion thing because my first thought was, well, that's just a cheap excuse to power up, and I didn't get the fusion. I mean, I got the fusion dance, but once I saw Gogeta in the movie, I'm like, I'm a Gogeta fan. Like that's I'm just like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. So I'm very, very proud of that. And I was very uncomfortable during the original Super Saiyan transformation speech because I was pretty sure it wasn't the Japanese speech, and it seemed kind of egoic and a little out of character. So when I got to do it for Kai and do it more properly right, then it felt more comfortable. So for Kai, go Super Saiyan. And just so you know, I had a lot of anxiety playing the character up until the Super Saiyan transformation because I was taking over for 2 actors who played Ian and Peter, Ian Clark and Peter Columbus, who played it before, and I really wanted to match the voices and do justice to that. And they didn't know if I could scream like that. I hadn't done it. I didn't know if I was going to have to. We didn't know. So that day, for me, was the day I finally decided to own the character and say, hey, thanks for the handoff, guys, but I'm making this my own from now on. And it was kind of a transformative moment for me as an actor. That very day was a very special day for me back in like 2003 or 4. It was very early on. By the time we got to the first Super Saiyan transformation, which I was waiting to see what it was because I couldn't watch ahead. Like, what's this going to be? What's going on? What's going to happen? And I think I had to record that. Well, I haven't recorded it again yet, but for the new RPG is going to cover the entire Dragon Ball story. So that's all I can say about it. But it's going to be a really cool RPG. You're going to be able to live the whole story of the Dragon Ball Z story. when it comes out. So hopefully it'll be later this year. I think that's what they're planning on later this year. But yeah, those moments are, and any comedic moment, I enjoy comedic moments. There's a lot of moments in Super I really like that are, I always enjoy the comedy moments with Goku, especially when it's with Vegeta and they're not getting along or whatever. I love it when they go off in the Broly movie to go do the fusion, you know, and they get it wrong, and their angles are all wrong. No, you're gonna do it again. And Vegeta doesn't want to, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope that answers your question. All right, let's get to Spider Guy. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, what was the recording process like back then during the original Zine versus how it is now?
It was just a lot slower because we were using these $25,000 Sony Beta giant tape machines that have to take forever to rewind. And you get cold in the booth. I'd rather move quicker. And so it'd be like, you do a take. Oh, sorry, you didn't start right. Stop. I'm sorry, I screwed up again. So can we do it again? Okay. It's that all day. Now it's like, hit me again. No. Wait, you're right. Hit me again. Dude, got it. So now, after 20 years of doing it, I'll get a take right in 1 to 3 takes. Whereas before, it took me about 12 to 22 takes or so. I used to keep track. I'm like, God, I'm not getting this right. But when you do it a long time, and sometimes sometimes we preview the Japanese, and sometimes I'll just do it along with the Japanese just because I'm feeling right. And I'm like, good, that's a take, let's keep going. Like, I'm just ready to go. Because I like to keep cooking in the booth. And producers like that too, because you get done faster, and they pay you by the hour, so they're like, then they'll hire you again. See, people use the logic, well, if I go slow, I make more money, yeah, but then they won't hire you again. So if you go faster, they'll think you're fast, and then hire you again. So it's more volume, but you gotta hedge your bets on cost-benefit analysis and speed when you're working at a recording studio. So yeah, it's mainly just slower, and I'm more comfortable with the character, and we have a better director and better engineers and better recording equipment. Everything's just better. It's all better. That's good.
Do you hear that boop boop beep in your sleep?
No. Actually, it's really funny. I work so much. Oh, I forgot we have a sign language person, and I always worry that I talk too fast and their hands are gonna catch on fire. So I talk really good. And I hope that's not an offensive joke. Because then you can do a parody SNL sketch where it's like friction lubrication for sign language, so your hands won't catch on fire, so you can talk fast. Is that a funny joke? Would that be funny to someone who does sign? Okay, good. I'm getting approval for the joke. I want to make sure I don't offend
signing, of course.
Speed signing, and you have to do a special lubricant. So it cuts down on viscosity and thermal breakdown, like Mobile One or something. Because here's a fun fact. Twice I've been in court. Once as a juror, and once as a witness recently for a car trial hearing and then for a Chipotle thing, which I can talk about now. And both times, I made this funny joke. Both times, the what's it called? The court reporter, angrily reprimanded me for talking too fast. One I called was I don't want to, she never sees this. It was a cranky old lady who was like, you're cranky. I would sing songs, cranky old court reporter lady, why are you so mad at me? Because I talk too fast. She goes, give me the seat, slow down. I'm sorry. And I would jokingly say, sorry, it's been a lifelong habit. I'm sorry. I've been talking this fast for 50 years. It's hard for me to slow down. Like I said that in open court. And then recently, I was for this car trial I got picked for. The guy goes, I was talking too fast, and he turns around and he's like, hey, can you slow down? I'm sorry. And then I did it again. He goes, seriously, angrily at me, slow down. And I went, wow, these court reporters are not messing around. And I was actually pissed, but I was like, I'm not going to make a stink here in court. So I go, sorry, lifelong habit, And then for the next answer, instead of answering like I normally do, did you not? I go, yes. That was in one word. That was right.